Hi everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, we will be covering cloud computing. We'll be seeing some advantages of cloud computing. So there are different deployment models that are associated with cloud computing. We'll be covering those as well. We'll be covering some cloud computing services and finally some disadvantages of cloud. So let's start this video. So first of all, what is cloud computing and how it is different from the traditional data centers? So when we talk of traditional data center, there we used to have our own hardware. We used to maintain our hardware in the company premises, or we used to have some data centers where we host our hardware and create our servers. We also used to have our network layer like switches, routers, all these things we used to have. And in order to run this hardware, we used to have proper electricity supply followed by backups, cooling systems, then facility cost is also another thing to add. Then we used to have some security around the facility, and there are many more costs involved in the traditional data center. But switching to cloud computing, we can get away with all these things because everything is hosted in cloud. So cloud computing provides us on-demand delivery of IT resources. That means we need not to worry about the hardware or cooling system, anything. So whenever we need resources, cloud provider provides us, and everything is provided over the internet. That means you want to create some routers or some load balancers or instances, so everything is provided over the internet. And the pricing model is also very simple. It is pay as you go. That means you have to pay as much as you use. Suppose you are using 5 instances, EC2 instances in terms of AWS, then you have to pay for 5, and you have to pay even like if you are using it for 5 hours or 10 hours, you have to pay only for that amount of time. So that means there is no huge upfront cost in cloud that is there in the data centers, because we have to buy our hardware, we have to plan our capacity in advance. Suppose we are having some major release and we are expecting a lot of traffic during that time, so we have to scale our hardware in case of on-premises data center. Maybe a year before we have to start planning, we have to procure more hardware. But we can get away with all these things in terms of cloud, because we can create resources on demand and we can use it till the time we want to, and then we can terminate those resources. Here in cloud, instead of buying and owning your own physical data center, you create instance over cloud, as I said. Then you can access technology services such as cloud computing, power, storage, database, everything over internet. That means you can create your own databases, you have your own storage, everything over internet, and you can use as much as you want. And it is on the as need basis. Cloud computing advantages. The first advantage is by elasticity. I mean that you do not have to over provision your resources. That means you can provision your resources as much as you need. Suppose you need, let's say, uh, 10 instances today, then you can provision 10 instances. And tomorrow, if you need only 2, then you can terminate 8 instances and you have to pay for only the time that you have used them. So that is the power of cloud. You can scale up, scale down your resources as your requirement increases or decreases. It provides great cost saving because, as I said, there is no huge upfront cost involved, because you have to pay for as much as you use. Suppose you are using for 5 hours a day, then you have to pay only for 5 hours a day. And the variable expenses such as data copying and others are very low. Next major advantage is you can deploy your architecture or applications globally in minutes. The reason is that cloud providers have their regions or availability zones across the world. So you can deploy your applications into your corresponding or required region and or nearer to the consumer. So that will definitely decrease the latency because now your application is nearer to the consumers. Next is data loss prevention. So when we use cloud computing, data backups are centralized and automatically done. So that removes the need for individual or teams to maintain their own data backup on their site. This lowers the risk of data loss. and there are multiple copies of data already stored. If I take example of S3, they provide very high availability. They guarantee basically, so that prevents the data loss up to an extent. Like you can have also have like cross region replication in case of S3, so that you can have multiple copies and you can restore as much as you want. So this is in your hand. Advanced security. So when we talk of cloud security, first of all, the data center where the your servers or every resource is hosted is already secured by multiple layers by the cloud provider. This is the physical security. And in terms of data security or resource security also, there are a lot of security that is being applied to your let's say AWS, Azure. So this is at the provider level. But at the end user, you can also have a lot of security in your hand. Like you can configure, like in a VPC, you can configure NACLs, network access control list, so that you can allow only the authorized users or IPs. Then you can configure security groups, and then you can have other security services such as guard duty you can use. Then for logging and authorization, you have like CloudWatch, CloudTrail, IAM. So there are a lot of security services also provided by cloud. So before we move to cloud deployment model, if you like this content, then please do subscribe this channel and like this video, and that will help this video in reaching to more people who like to understand what is cloud computing. So there are multiple cloud deployment model that you can use as per your requirement. Like there is public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. So when we talk of public cloud, here the resources such as compute, storage, network, everything is accessed over the internet, and it is managed and provided by the cloud providers such as AWS, Azure, or Google. So this means that all the resources is hosted in the cloud providers environment, and you access every resource via internet. When we talk of private cloud, here the resources are built, run, and used by a single organization on their premises. That means it is more like a on-premises data center. So here organization have greater control and customization they can do as per their requirement. But it comes with a cost and resource limitation, because you have to manage your scalability as well as per your requirement, and there is a upfront cost involved. Finally, hybrid. So basically hybrid is a mix of both public and private cloud. So hybrid environment provide, as I said, mix of both. Here you can have one or more public cloud. There you can use some of their services, and also you can have your some of the, let's say, business critical workloads into your environment or on premises environment. So here you can use the benefit of both the environments. Next is cloud computing services. So basically there are different options in which you can use these. First is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. In case of infrastructure as a service, you get compute, storage, networking, everything from the service provider, and you have to manage your own software. You have to purchase them like operating system, middleware, data application, everything. So basically in this type, you get a basic instances or databases, everything you get, but you have to install your own software, you have to purchase them, and you have to use them. In case of platform as a service, here you get hardware and software for developing and testing everything from the cloud providers. You have to create only your application. That means you get everything from infrastructure as a service. On top of it, you get some softwares, you get middleware, development tool, everything, and you have to just write your code and start using it. Software as a service, this is the most easiest and the like easy to use one. Here you get everything. You have to just log in to the service provider and use it. So you get full application stack as a service, that you can use it basically by logging in. You can create your own account and use it. So it is the most ready to use one. So on a high level, here you get only the resources. Here you get resources plus some software is installed, middleware, everything. You have to just write your own code and like the program that you run. Here you get everything. It's just very ready to use. So there are some of the disadvantages as well associated with cloud computing. So I'm covering here only three, but there are many more you can see. But on a high level, first is the downtime. Because you are running all your workload, business critical application, everything over cloud, and that is accessed over internet. So in case there is some internet outage or your internet is not behaving properly, it may be a fluctuating internet, then your application access will be interrupted, and this may cause a downtime to your application because everything is accessed over internet, and in case of there is outage, you will face a severe impact on your application. Vendor lock-in. Here, suppose you are moving your infrastructure on premises to a particular cloud, then it takes good amount of effort in moving your applications, infra, everything to the cloud, because you have to maybe refactor your application as per cloud environment. And suppose you are moving to one cloud provider, and maybe couple of years down the line you want to move to another cloud provider, but then it takes again good amount of time. So that is we are calling it vendor lock-in, because switching between them will cost good amount of switching cost, and you have to migrate large amount of data, and there are many more complexity that you can face.
So we should be very careful about what resources we are creating, what is the duration of those resources, because it is very easy to create, let's say, EC2 instances, load balancer, storage, and other machine learning services. So we should be very careful of what we are creating, and we should always check the cost associated with that. And let's say if we create an EC2 instance of high compute and if we leave it running and for 24 cross 7 and forgot to terminate, then it will be a huge cost. And let's say we are storing petabytes of data in S3 and we are not evaluating the validity of data. Let's say if that data is really required or we are just dumping data in S3, then it will be a huge storage cost. So we need to see all these things. So if we think that our workload is intermittent, then we can opt for serverless. But if our workload is very consistent and we need it, let's say 24 cross 7, then serverless might cost you more. So that all things you need to evaluate from cost perspective. But in case we do not do a proper planning and cost forecasting, then it will be a huge cost and that we have to pay to the cloud providers.
So that's it for this video, and if you like this video, then please do subscribe the channel and like this video. Thank you.